Hi, welcome to week 5. I want to talk about what happened last week on the discussion board. We had great conversation once again, and some very interesting questions emerged from the discussions. There was a lot of talk about role models and people starting at a young age and talent. And as I read through the different discussions, a few questions emerged that I'd like to bring to light. And the first one is, to be an effective leader, do you have to be doing something that's considered socially acceptable? For example, was Hitler an effective leader? Did he get people to do what he wanted them to do? Did people look at him as their leader? But was he doing something socially acceptable? I would bet to say he was not. 2, is an effective executive an effective leader? Because you know how to make money, are you a leader? Or are you just somebody who's good at knowing how to work the system? Does somebody who makes a lot of money for their company because they know how to buy or sell in the finance market, for example, on the bond market, are they effective leaders? Does talent matter, or is it a matter of who you know? One comment was that would Beyonce be as successful as she is had she not married this very successful music executive, Jay-Z? Does talent matter? Or is networking the most important? Are you a leader because of what you stand for? Or does what you stand for make you the leader? And lastly, are all leaders role models? And do we have role models that aren't leaders? This week, we're going to take a little bit different approach. This week, we look at leadership versus management. I am sure if anybody's had a job, you've had a manager, and the manager tells you what to do, tells you when to do it, tells you how to do it, unless you're into some very independent type of organization that you have a lot of freedom. But is the manager who's telling you what and how and when really leading you? Do you look at them as a role model? I can think of my first job when I worked as a clerk for a store, and I had a manager who, was very controlling and wanted everything done a certain way, even if it wasn't the most effective way. But it wasn't about leading, it was about making sure that the person ahead of that was on top of them in terms of management didn't get angry. So we just kind of followed the route, and whether it was a good idea or a bad idea, how we arranged the shelves or displayed the merchandise, didn't matter. We didn't have any say in that. So leadership versus management. Our discussion board is going to look at Jack Welch as the person to discuss and comparing it to a couple people in our book. There is somebody from Kodak, there's somebody from American Express. Look at these different leaders and see similarities and differences. Now Kodak, I would beg to say, has not done well at all. As you know, Kodak was very slow to respond to the film industry going away, and once digital became so powerful, that whole industry pretty much packed up and a large portion of their profits disappeared. So that's something to consider. In terms of work, we're not going to blog this week. Instead, we're going to do a discussion board again, and we have our community event assignment due this week. You can go to the assignment tab to find that out. If you can't go to an event, one suggestion would be to go to the library, and there is an art display. Look at the art display and follow the directions for the community event and write it up. And lastly, there's a video, and it's a library refresher on how you would do research using the databases that Marymount has. So that's it for the week. Thanks for the great job. We had great attendance again in the discussion boards. Remember to get your work in, and you post everything through the assignments. And look to see when your presentation is due, and look at the date that you need to have it submitted by. When you don't get your presentation in on time, it affects your fellow students. So let's try to stay on schedule. Thanks, and I'll be looking for you out there in virtual land, and hopefully we won't have too much snow. Bye-bye.